Hello everyone. Welcoming you to the AI, the Future of Creativity session. I request all the session speakers to please be seated on the stage. We want a picture of all of you first, requesting you to please just come in front of the dais to get a picture.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. We are going to start the session on AI and the future of creativity here, organized by Mozilla Foundation and G5A. I will hand over to Divya, who will be moderating the session. And thank you for joining us.
Great. Thank you all so much for being here. We have an incredible group of panelists to talk about AI and the future of creativity. With us today is Ziad Borat, the Vice President of Imagination and Strategic Growth at Mozilla, which is one of the coolest titles I've ever heard. We have Nikhil Advani, filmmaker and advisory council member of G5A. He's directed some of my favorite movies, definitely. And we have Saranyan Vigraham, director of engineering at Meta, who has built many incredible and I think very imaginative AI tools. So I imagine they all have a lot to say about this topic. I'm Divya. I'm the founder and executive director of a nonprofit called the Collective Intelligence Project, and we work on global democratic input into AI systems. So today we're here to talk about AI and creativity, and I think we're all invested in what the future of art and creativity look like. This is a core part of what it means to build anything, to be human, to build culture, to build society. And I at least think AI will make huge differences in this space, and it's unclear, what impact that they'll have. And so my first question for my panelists, starting with Ziad, is, Mozilla has thought a lot about the open internet, about open technologies. The open internet gave us incredible things, flowering of creativity, Wikipedia, Creative Commons, made creators out of billions of people around the world. It has also led to, a lot of cheapening of individual labor, complications, copyright issues, participation issues. What have we learned from Mozilla's work and thinking about the open internet that we can bring into thinking about AI?
Thanks, Divya. I think you put it quite acutely. I think this is a topic that we really, as a group, as a society, need to wrap our heads around because it is pressing and urgent, even if it might not feel like it sometimes to policymakers. And the reason is simple. We are at a juncture. This has happened in the past, as you correctly note, with the advent of the free and open internet, where we've had a fork in the road, right? We've had Wikipedia emerge out of the amazing work that folk have done to share knowledge online. At the same time, we've seen extractive practices almost as a dual use case in this environment. And so generative AI offers some of the same questions. And I want to start by acknowledging that it may be a fork in the road, but I think there's something much deeper here. You'll hear a lot, if you're around the summit this week, about the AI stack, about hardware, compute, model layers, application layers, data, etc. But I think the core of what we're facing right now is that we need to make, and what we have learned is that we need to make the invisible visible. Imagination is an infrastructure in the AI ecosystem that is currently not being realized to its full potential as such. It is being extracted from, and we absolutely, as a community, need to make sure that does not happen. We've learned this in the past. We've learned this with the advent, as mentioned, of the open internet. But now we can actually see the structural stacking of all of these layers together, and we have a foundation on which to base interventions. And so for me, when thinking about this as a fork in the road, possibly, I actually think it's more than that. I think that we have a tunnel underneath a stack that we need to break open, right? And that's why I love open source and open AI. Not the company per se, but open source AI. It is because it forces us to think about transparency and about consent. And we have learned these lessons before, but now we have the structural tools to address it.
I'm actually curious for both of your, because Ziad's laid out so beautifully, why does imagination matter? You know, it is easy to talk about some of the more visible aspects of AI. I think it's important to talk about things like economic impacts and impacts on governance and education. We also do care about imagination and culture. Yeah, why do you think that this part of the conversation is important?
All right. So as Ziad was talking, I'm thinking about the products you mentioned, right? You talked about Wikipedia. You talked about Creative Commons. You talked about cultural remixes. It's very interesting, right? If you look at all those three, they have some tenets in common, right? Wikipedia had collective intelligence. It had governance by the community. It allowed it allowed things to naturally, organically form together in the ways it mattered for communities. Multilingual became natural. So a lot of tenets of how Wikipedia evolved came because people made it what it is, right? Similarly, if you look at Creative Commons, it has legal framework embedded in the design itself. It's a legal framework by choice. I can control what I want to share. I can say what I don't want to share, right? And that was respected. And similarly, the remixes is essentially when we create a new meme, when we create anything that becomes viral these days, right? We are building upon culture that already exists to add more texture to it, and it propagates forward in time, right? So we are leaving these traces in time of how culture evolved. And internet was always about that, about that openness, about that democratization of how we can get these ideas across, how discovery becomes seamless and possible. Now, there is the other side of it where we have these content forms, right? And it is, then you have platforms taking over. You have creatives or artists experiencing that their work is not well represented and it is cannibalized. And all these things happen when algorithms take over, right? You have, because now you are farming for engagement, you're farming for revenue, right? Your incentives change drastically across the board. So it's the two sides of internet, one is open and one is not. And I think those tenets essentially are what we see right now. And AI is so nascent in a way, right? We can talk about, AI is the talk of the town for sure, but it is still very nascent. It is in phase one where everybody has decided that we no longer need Google. We can go to ChatGPT or Anthropic or Gemini. We can use AI for search. We can use it for discovery. Now, which means that it is at that phase one where people want to use AI for everything. But it has not reached the stage where we have not figured out anything around what the legal framework is going to be, how we are going to truly represent artists, how can we make compensation part of the infrastructure itself. None of these things have been figured out yet. So the fork in the road is real, I think. What we have learned from it, we don't know yet. Maybe in 5 years, we might have, as a community, we'll show that we have learned astoundingly well and the world is equitable and fair. Or it's very lopsided and we have not learned anything and we're going to make the same mistakes, right? And so I think time will tell. But I think we have the opportunity to reshape the AI infrastructure with these tenets around. You talked about transparency, for sure. Legal framework, compensation, fair use, and humans building stuff and not algorithms deciding, I think will be very important.
Yeah, so I'm going to talk about imagination, right? I mean, that
Yes,
was my
please.
question. Why is imagination so important? So firstly, I just want to put a kind of disclaimer out there. I think Obama had quoted somebody saying that if you're the most clever person in the room, then you're in the wrong room. That's the reason why I'm in this room, right? I don't know anything about AI. I have no idea about AI. When they start talking about AI in my office, I leave the room and go away. I told them they couldn't believe it. I don't have Swiggy, I don't have Uber, I don't have anything on my phone. Nothing. Zomato, nothing. I don't have. My assistant is my AI. I call him and tell him do this. He does it. It gets done, right? So I don't know what all this is. But if somebody told me that you can actually, a boy in Chhattisgarh, I mean, I can actually make a film without bothering about 7 vanity vans and 27 people around them and an actor's dates, I'm happy. I'll make it. Very good. Somebody told me that I can actually, a boy in Chhattisgarh or a student in Jharkhand or some remote part of Kashmir or in Kerala, somebody can actually create an entire film. Wow, incredible. That's really democratization, right? But here's what the thing is, right? In the sense that of course it's about imagination, but it's also about artistic intention. It's very important, right? Most art students can draw a shoe. It's only Van Gogh who will tell you the story of the farmer through that shoe, right? Most, I don't know, why does Arijit Singh decide to sing that particular rag in that morning, right? Something that he woke up with and something that he chose to do. So if people just keep making the films the way, I mean, by using AI tools, which they should, and that's the reason why we are here, but if there is no originality, right, in the sense, and what is original is, we'll come to that later, but the point is then it will always be like what most of Bollywood is, which is a 90% rubbish, right? It'll just be that. Where what separates the 10% from the 90% is artistic intention. Is what did Anurag Kashyap intend to say with that particular shot? I don't think anybody can get that. For me, that's the most important thing. That's what I see when I am making my own films and when I am reading other scripts, and that's what, I don't know. If AI can do that, then we are in possibly in a very good place. We'll get better films.
So when we were talking outside this session, I think you had mentioned something about how the economics of AI is likely to set the direction of where things go, right? It'll trump ethics, it'll trump law. It's likely that the incentives behind the people who are building these technologies are going to set the direction of how they proceed. I'm curious, I think for all the panelists, what that looks like in the space of creativity, and in particular, what levers do we have to align those incentives with things like we want human flourishing, we want culture, we want artistic intention? What can we do about aligning the economic incentives to the things that we think would be positive for society? Ziad, if you want to start.
Yeah, I think it's a structural problem and it's not being considered as such. And that's what I just want to keep repeating. I think there is a lot of intervention focused on, okay, we see the after effects of AI, let's try and mitigate against it. We see loss of livelihoods occurring, let's try and mitigate it. But there's not enough of a structural intervention to say, well, no, actually, how do we, instead of creating fear-based approaches, how do we create further opportunities, right? How do we look at generative AI and the advent of this technology and realign the incentives structurally? And that's not just only in intellectual property, right? often it's very quick for folk to think, let's just wait until the courts figure it out, right? Or let's just go to our IP regimes and think that that's where the majority of the case will be. No, it's not. If it's a structural intervention, you're going to look at intellectual property. You're going to look at labor, right? Creative labor. You're going to look at tax incentives as well. You're going to think, how are artists actually being funded? How are cultural institutions being funded? That implicates tax policy as well. But we're not seeing that in a fundamentally structural sense because this layer is not visible, right? It is not visible in geopolitical discussions. The imaginative layer is a kind of substrate as a resource for everybody to exploit. It's ambient. It envelops the entire AI stack. And so artistic intent, it becomes invisible in that system. And that's what we need to actually make sure that we address. Because if we create those ripe conditions where communities are in control of their data, they're imagining as independent creators, they have the incentive structures in place, we have licensing regimes, labor regimes, and tax regimes that support independent creators, then that intent can flourish. But at the moment, we're fixated on chips, hardware, etc. These are immediate priorities, right? But we haven't thought about the long run. We haven't thought about, okay, well, what happens in a world where we have completely flattened out this substrate because we have a monoculture, right? Or, to put it bluntly, we're net receivers of other people's imagination, right? So it's so important to get this right, and people are doing that. This work is being done. It's just not as visible, and communities need to be at the forefront of that. I think it's a groundswell movement to assert ourselves, to structurally realign these incentives, and to get it taken seriously.
A lot of things to unpack here. So I think incentives is one thing. I think you also touched upon conversations, whether the right outcomes are factored in the conversations that we are doing when we are designing these systems, right? There's also artistic intent that Nikhil touched upon. So let me tackle so being an engineer, at least I can tell you how these systems are designed and what are the incentives. So the biggest problem is incentives don't get lined up well. They're very misaligned. As engineers are creatives too, right? So what they do is they solve a problem with constraints. And there is a specific goal that you're trying to meet. Right now, the goal that everybody wants is we want to get these systems to do incredible things. Right? That is, and we have shown that, right? These AI models that are in the world right now, they can do some phenomenal things, and every update only makes them better in terms of their capability. But so in the internet era, what happened is we had a lot of time as we built these systems, as we saw the side effects of what we built, engagement farming came in, we were able to respond to it well. People had solutions. The democratization did exist. With AI, it is 100x more challenging, it's more powerful with 10x less time to figure out the solutions. And that is incredibly hard. So a lot of companies, like even Collective Intelligence that Divya is part of, they run evaluations. They say that, we can probably not catch them on the fly as they design, but what do we want these models to do in the real world when they come out? Can we bring a community of people together to define the local context on whether this model is representing them accurately? And can we design evaluations in such a way that we can give feedback to the model, to the designers, so that they can be on track? How fast can we do it? How can we scale that? That's a really good question. I do not know the answer to it. So I think when people design these systems today, Ziad is right. It's about chips. It's about how fast the inferencing is, how fast we can deploy these models, what are the use cases for them. Because that seems to be the only thing that is visible. That is the only thing that's tangible. That's the only thing you can conquer. But what it does to people who are using AI, how it changes behaviors, we are just learning about it. Now the question is, how do we bake these things in the design? Now that we have released 4 versions of the prominent frontier models, can we take a step back and understand what we learned? And can that become part of the design? I think that needs to happen, right? So it is happening in pockets, I think, but it is not, and also I think co-creating is important in AI. It doesn't happen that often. It is, again, engineers solving a specific set of problems. If somebody like Nikhil is in the room, I'm pretty sure he will have different perspectives on what the impact is going to be, what things should be organically part of the infrastructure that we are building. I think those conversations also need to happen, I think, and that is not happening enough, I guess.
Isn't that what I was saying inside over there?
Something like that. I mean, we were talking about also, is the default path that AI does help, let's say, the boy in Chandigarh or Chhattisgarh to create something, or is it going to help the already large institutional players, let go of all of the people that they tend to work with? And will it be democratizing, or will it be top down?
Both.
Yeah, so I think
That's
that's
why
what
it's
we
on
were
the
talking
fork,
about.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, both, very much. There's no question about it, right? If we are saying that it's not going to mean there's going to be a culling of creativity, it's going to be there. There's no question about it. Is the boy in Chandigarh going to be able to make the film? I was not. I had to actually go through a lot of steps, right? I mean, assistant and associate, get Shah Rukh's attention, pitch him a script. I mean, and I tell that to so many people that there are a million like that kids in Bombay, right? A million of them. Only one of them got recognized by Shah Rukh. And so the luck factor is huge. Now what happens is that if you can take that luck factor out of the way, and you just have an incredible script that nobody's actually going to be looking at and willing to allow you to make it, but you can make it because you have some wonderful tools at your disposal. Why not? But yeah, it's going to be I think that maybe a year ago, that's what I was saying. A year ago, there was conversations about in Amazons and Netflixes and Apple and the places that I work with. Oh no, we can't do it. You cannot do it. You have to let us know. Are you doing that? Are you going to take this shot with using an AI tool, etc., etc.? Now they all have departments on their own organizations that are actually registering AI tools, and they are working with companies to create AI tools, which they can basically then give their makers to say, hello, you can do this. Why not? Because at the end of the day, see, everything is about the budget. Right? You can have an incredible script, you can have an incredible piece of storytelling, but if the budget doesn't work, the budget doesn't work. It's out of the window. Right? So if the budget can be brought down by just making sure that you don't have to take 400 people with you to take that particular shot at 2 o'clock who was waking up at 2 o'clock in the night to take a shot at 6 o'clock in the morning, when actually what possibly also happened, the actor did not wake up in time and did not come. Right? Oh, I don't need it. I'll sit in Andheri somewhere in Bombay and I'll create it. So you know what I'm saying? So there are advantages and there are huge disadvantages also. But it's just that I think that we are be cognizant of that and not be blind to it. That's it.
And back to our macro question that you actually brought up around, well, what is originality in the age of AI? And of course, we as human society don't have that clear of a definition of originality anyway, right? Like we all pull from ancient stories, we learn from each other. It's not that anyone kind of creates something in a vacuum. But at the same time, I think it is the case that these tools change a little bit of how remixing works currently and in the future. So I'm wondering what the impact is you think it'll have on what it means to create something original, what it means to have kind of authorial intent.
So what is originality? That's a very good question for Bollywood. Right?
That's why I asked you first.
That's a very, very good question. That's an excellent question, and most people in my film industry will not be able to answer it. They're celebrating right now. Wow, we don't have to look at DVDs and references and all. We just have to do this, and it'll do it, right? So there are two stories that actually I was thinking about when I was driving up over here. Suppose I give a script which says that there is a small sleepy town upstate New York with a police officer, and he's dealing with his own marital issues, and it's going to be summer, and people are going to come to the beach, and the night before, a girl goes into the water, and she's just come from a party, she's enjoying, the boy's running after her, and there's a shark. Suppose I give this to AI, right? You'll see the shark in the first 5 minutes. In Spielberg's Jaws, the shark kept sinking. It just sank 32 times. You never saw the shark, right? So what did he do? He turned the camera around. And he said, let me make it the point of view of the shark. Right? He made it the point of view of the shark. He put some music to it. And you were shit scared. That's original. It happens right then and there. The thing about an original film is it has mistakes. It has human error. Right? A good film is a series of mistakes. A great film celebrates the mistake. What AI will all constantly do. I mean, there's another incredible story of Stanley Kubrick. Tom Cruise was shooting Eyes Wide Shut, and he called up Steven Spielberg after day one, and he said, hey, you scared me. You told me that he's a terrible director. He just goes on and on and on. He harasses you. And we finished 3 minutes of 3 pages of a scene, and we just have a shot of me coming in, which we are doing tomorrow. The next day, he did 52 takes. Coming in, going out, coming in, going out, coming in, going out. And after that, the 52nd take, he asked Kubrick, what was I doing wrong? He said, I don't know, but you were not doing it right. That is filmmaking. That's the magic. That you can't get in any AI.
So I have an interesting story here, okay? So I was just telling Nikhil, so I have an 11-year-old who loves making films. He has decided that he's going to become a film director. Okay? And at some point, he was very shy to go. He's like, I cannot just go talk to people. My kids in my school are very mean. I cannot ask them to act in my films. So I'm going to use AI to just do it, right? And we experimented for a week using an AI model that's very, very popular for making movies that I cannot name. And we did
Tell me, I don't know it.
something very, I'll tell you right after this, okay? and he had his, we took snippets from his stories and we tried to create it. It was horrible. And the frustrating thing for him was not that they didn't generate relevant imagery and stuff from the description, but that it doesn't match what I have in my head. This is the artistic intention he was talking about, right? Tools cannot understand what you're seeing, right? And our human language is not very good at translating it also. And now the challenge also with these models is, look at how they are trained, right? Your models are trained on publicly available data sets. Legally or not is a different story, but it is found on the internet, right? It is data that people have decided to put up. It's data that they want to show in some good light, right? But what about all the things that people have not shared, where the real values is? What about the stories that my grandmother told me? What about the cultural tapestry that we all know, but we have never translated it? So the data is very incomplete and very biased in the sense that it represents a select few. They might not be representative of the entire world, right? And now when we generalize AI through what it can do today, we are also normalizing and we are flattening the world. And that is the worry, right? And if people start believing and we are going to rely on AI for everything that we are doing, eventually you're going to lose your originality. Everything is going to be flat and uniform. And it is good. It's good for the AI models. It's good for the companies, right? But I think that's the problem I feel with originality, and the representation does not exist on things that really matter, really that adds the texture to culture, and it captures how we all evolved as human beings, how culture evolved, until that becomes part of it. And the question then is, do we even want to capture all this thing? Do we want to capture really this in AI, right? What does it mean to be human then, right? So I think those are the questions that we need to understand. Otherwise, it's just going to be super hard, right? Yeah.
I'll add to that. First of the question, I want to know which actor was late on set, Nikhil. You need to tell me that at some point.
Every actor. In
We
the
want
sense
names.
that there are some actors who will say that, or people will tell me that, oh, that actor is so good, now he comes on time. He comes on time? You better come on time, boss. What do you mean? That's not a virtue. You got to come on time. 400 other people have come on time, yeah?
But I think it speaks, the question of originality is one that it vexes me. The story that I have to share is very recently, I think this captures like the pain in my heart about it. I saw this video online and it was a split screen, and on one part of the screen, AI systems were prompted various things. Draw a lion, draw a phoenix, whatever it was, right? Various descriptions of a prompt. The same prompts were given to children, right? And on one hand, on one part of the screen, you saw these fantastic, very overproduced, beautiful phoenixes and whatnot. Other hand, you saw children's representations of what they believed, and it was weird and it was wonderful. And the juxtaposition of the two still pains me to see. It's like exactly that learning process, that error, that imaginative thinking in a flattened world is something that we really ought to pay attention to, because we can really flatten it. It's there. We're seeing it. So for me, it's existential. I really, really do feel it is existential. It is important for us to recognize that. And to take that question of originality again to more structural terms as well, we have current systems where, as you quite well put it, Divya, we have collective social imaginary. Like originality is not one great genius. We stand on the shoulders of giants. We also, as we're standing on these shoulders, we are holding on to future generations and the future before us, right? It's not we're looking backward and forward, etc., as we imagine the future. And as we are thinking about what is new and what is wonderful and what is imaginative in this world. And for us to do so, it is a collective project. But we do not have collective consent. We do not have collective compensation. We do not have collective control mechanisms to return that imagination to the communities on which it is built. And that, for me, is the problem, that originality is currently very much so, and has remained so, a community, a collective very human community identity formation that is extremely important to us, but it is not captured in the way that our economic incentives have been structured. And that's a mismatch.
So, I mean, here we are at the summit. We allegedly will be producing sets of principles, ways that we want companies to behave, governments, policy. All of these kinds of things are supposed to be outcomes of this event. If we had a lot of, let's say the three of you had a lot of control over what that looked like, and we're all worried about originality, we want to preserve creativity, we want to uplift the collective imagination, avoid flattening, give people tools to democratize, what are ways that you would add to the policy, the principles, the technology, let's say you could control it, to make that more possible?
Oh, I'm going first? Okay. Nicely played. I think few things. I do think transparency is the key. You need to know what you're training on. You need to figure out a way to attribute training and correlate the model outputs with what's trained on. That will allow for the compensation structure, figuring out what is the right incentives. Because take an example of Spotify, right? When Spotify came in, artists sued the company left and right because of rights. They didn't want their tracks to be there. They wanted fair compensation. There were questions of piracy or of consent. I think we have to figure that piece out, I feel. That comes from transparency. Second, I think is infra should be open. People should build for their own problems. The AI infrastructure should be a civic infrastructure. It cannot be exclusively accessed by few. For people who have the money, who have the privilege to purchase compute that's very expensive. I think there needs to be a collective commons where infra is available for everyone, and with good ideas, and problems that are meaningful to solve local community needs. Those things have to come. So open infra and transparency would be the two things that I would currently focus on.
Yeah, so,
Time to think.
yeah, I thought. I was, uh, I'm a little concerned about the fact that we will not, more and more, it will become a bit difficult to understand what is real and what is not real. And we tend to do that very, very effectively in the news today, right? It's just, so we don't know what is happening, what is real, what is not real. How can you actually, and the way young children and women are portrayed on, with various tools, etc. But at the same time, I'm a huge believer of Voltaire, who says that I may disagree with what you have, but I will go to my death to try and defend for your right to say it. So I don't have those. I think that there are more powerful people who are dealing with these things. But if tomorrow anything that is impinging on privacy rights, human rights, child rights, I think those are very important conversations to have when you are advocating the kind of tools that everybody is talking about at the summit.
Yeah.
I have maybe two things to add. We win if we are able to look power in the face and say, in these rooms where AI policies are being developed, AI tooling, systems, protocols are being developed, we say, you are missing the imagination layer. You are missing a huge component of the so-called stack that is invisible but drives everything. When we insist on that, when we call out policymakers, leaders, when we call them out to say you are being short-sighted, we win by insisting on that reality over and over again. And so I think that's what's missing. That's what I would hope that we can take away, is to insist upon that, because it's important. And then the second thing I have to say is, on the individual level, for the boy or girl, whoever who's dreaming to create, keep doing that. That's critical, especially now, more so than ever. Keep dreaming and keep creating.
Beautiful. I think we have a few minutes left for questions from the audience. If anyone wants to ask a question, Jibu, do you want to?
Yeah, we can take up the questions. Divya, you can make the pick as a moderator.
I think it might be easier if you pick someone you can walk to.
AI can pick.
But then what about our authorial intent?
Hello. Thank you for this talk. Very informative and motivating for sure. I wanted to ask you all, being from creative fields, and especially Nikhil, what do you do and how do you deal with not getting the outcome of your creativity? Sometimes you really want to be appreciated or even understood. For example, if you're a writer, right, or a painter, you really want the person to understand. And in this current generation where following and likes are everything, how do you just keep going on when you have something that you can bring out to the world? That's important, and you know it's important because you felt through the bad stuff and you want to give this out, what you've learned. Am I making sense at this point? Because I've said.
I mean, I stopped talking to that person who doesn't understand me.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. No, I'm just joking. Personally, what I do, and I never see anything I make again. Once I make it, and once I put it out into the world, I never see it. So when somebody comes to me and says, I don't like it, they didn't like it. But, so whether it's a script, whether it's something that I made, a feature or a film or a show or whatever, I've never seen it. I have not seen Kalona, I have not seen D-Day, I have not seen Airlift, I have not seen any of those films. It helps because Once it's out in the world, it's no longer mine, right? I want you to actually watch it in the most, or hear it, or be with, when I am narrating it to you, or in the most optimum place with a great sound and great picture and great this and great that. It's never going to happen. You had a fight with your boyfriend, or you had a fight with your mom or your father, or it's a very good day, your boss has given. So you've come into that room with possibly with not the way I want you to see. I don't actually, I don't care.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I think that's important for us to understand.
And you have to make yourself very hard.
Right.
You have to make yourself because everybody has an opinion, right? Everybody has an opinion. So as if you are writing, then just basically have a thick skin, surround yourself with a group of people who you think are important and whose opinion matters to you. If they are okay, everything is okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hi guys. Nikhil sir, I'm a big fan of your work. I also work at a film production company in Bombay. It's called Atomic Films.
All what?
Atomic Films
Okay.
with Karan Anshuman. And we have been experimenting with the use of AI for the last 6 months, ever since VO dropped, really. And I know there were calls for transparency on this panel. I just wanted to speak about the nature of the beast and understand your take on, is transparency really possible? Especially in a world where we have open source versus closed source models. Even if you have some content guidelines,
So when you say transparency, what do you mean?
I mean, like controlling what these models train on. Now that they're already trained, now that we have 3-4 generations of these models, and the way I understand it is it's kind of a black box. And you can, put content flags.
Yeah.
But then there'll always be a Chinese model that comes out and gives you full access.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's what's happening in the last few months. So how do you, I see that you brought up Spotify as well, and that was interesting because they sort of changed copyright laws to evolve for the streaming era. Do you see something similar happening in the film and TV space?
It'll happen everywhere. It will happen everywhere. 1 year ago, everybody was talking about ethics and legality and legal, and we won't do this and we won't do that. Now they are not going to talk about it. Now still they're asking you to be transparent. After a while, when they realize that, hey, we made this particular feature film at 50% of the cost, boom, everything is out of the window. It'll happen everywhere. There is right now they're every speaking the language that they are supposed to speak, which is, hey, you need to be transparent. You need to let us know where have you got it, when have you got it. I think in 6 months' time, they're not even going to bother about that. 6 months. I'm not even saying 5 years and 4 years and 1 year. 6 months.
So
they're not going to bother.
Is there a future without copyright, or at least without how we understand
India copyright? What you're talking about, yeah? India. Come on, yeah, the land of popularity, yeah. For God's sake, yeah, there's nothing. There is no copyright over here, yeah. I read somewhere a statistic which is incredible that Bollywood has spent 129 crores last year on just legal fees.
That's crazy.
Those guys are making money. There's no. I mean, come on, yeah. If somebody wants to, I made a film called Salami Ishq.
Yep.
Music is great. Not seen 1 rupee. No royalties. All that is for the US.
Saranyan and Ziad, I'm wondering if you have thoughts on the transparency question.
I think I do not understand the movie industry as much, so I cannot speak to it. But I can talk about the model transparency that you're talking about, right? I think it is possible. It's a policy thing as well, right? How much do you really want to reveal? And sometimes it's very hard to correlate what you train on versus what the output is. How do you say that I showed you this image and you're using that image when you're generating that model output, right? It's a technically almost an infeasible problem today. I think we have to evolve, and we will evolve and learn, and there will be new laws that will form around this one. Just recognizing the intent is important, I feel. And the outcome is like Nikhil said, it will be outcome driven, like where if you can make something for a quarter of the cost with like 1/10 of the people, I mean, I think there is incentive to get your ideas out really, really fast, isn't it? And so it can be used as that leverage as well. And eventually we will figure out as collectively what does it really mean? How do we, and so, but it's important to have these conversations though. I think that's probably how I see this.
I will add that, yes, I think it's very possible. I think it's a choice to create black boxes and not something that we should continue to do. It is, however, I want to recognize, we are on a certain path where that is almost the default. But the default needs to change. And I do see movement towards that, right? As soon as independent creators are able to control their works, their content, and it's not only necessarily through intellectual property, it's through gated mechanisms for their data, right? Data infrastructure in particular. As soon as they're able to do that, and there are folks who are working on doing so, you change the power dynamics, right? You might push the costs up for models to use those data sources, and as a result, yes, some of those frontier models, video generation AI systems and platforms have expressed, oh, it's too expensive to get all of this content, right? But those costs can come down over time, right? And more importantly, the incentive structure is completely different. So I believe in that world where you do have created agency, where data belongs to independent creators. And I think it's quite realistic to be able to insist upon that.
We can take 2 more questions. Divya, make your pick that side. We haven't given any representation.
How about this
Okay.
in the front?
Thanks. Hi, everyone. Thank you for such an enriching session. I just want to know, like Nikhil sir, you just said that, originality is something that actors do have. AI is going to give you, it is going to come in, it is going to give you better scenes at better cost, the budget is going to get saved. How do you put a hard stop to it? Because there are people who are surviving over this film industry. There are daily wage workers, there are a lot of people who are surviving on it. How do you put a hard stop that, we don't have to go to the AI route? We need to bring our originality back because there will be actors who will be there. So how do you, bridge that gap?
Irrespective of everything, fast fashion and everything, you still have handicrafts and handloom, right? You still have that, right? You still have things that are being made by the hand, and those things are today of high value. I think that more and more, I'm pretty optimistic about us as a community, that we reject things that are manufactured at the end of the day, right? We reject things that we know that has been easily done, right? There's a value to this guy who's basically, in some village doing block printing and something like that and all. So I think that will constantly happen, and there will be, what is the independent cinema never needed budget. It needed heart, right? It just needs heart, right? It didn't need a budget. And my hope is that with the advent of lots of big budget films and big budget and commercial and mainstream cinema they will move totally towards AI, right? Because at the end of the day, their intent, like I said right in the beginning, is the Friday, Saturday, Sunday box office, right? There is no other intent. As a result of which, I feel the independent cinema, the interesting storytelling, the original storytelling will really, really get a flip, right? And you can already see it. You can already see it in the live shows and the live performances that have gone up. I don't know. Reshma sitting over there, she'll give you a statistic of how live shows have just gone out of the roof, right? You want to go and see a great stand-up. You want to go and hear a great performance, but because there is a connection, that connection is not going anywhere. I don't think that's going to go anywhere.
Okay, one last question. Divya, make your pick.
Sir in the yellow shirt in the back.
Yes, I was.
Thank you so much, ma'am. First, I have to thank you. You allowed me. My question is to Mr. Nikhil. By the way, I'm the founder CEO of a company called Cartoon Movie. Our website is cartoon.movie. And we are working on democratizing animation to everybody. We have envisioned this 3 years ago, and we are making a one largest ecosystem for both production and consumption. Sir, in this kind of a generative AI era, by the way, I'm a technologist. I'm working towards democratization of technology. So if we want to flourish in this such a disruptive space for creators and global economies as well, I would like to take one piece of your advice / gyan so that we would be able to implement that and flourish, as a win-win situation for creators and also technologists like us.
I don't know whether I'm flourishing myself, yeah. I don't know. I think that my Gyan, I don't know. Hire the kids that he was taught who were drawing. I think that's what possibly generative AI. I had to read up before coming over here. I didn't even know what it was. So it has to be original storytelling in my mind, right? At the end of the day, when you are prompting, there are so many things that I think, right? That's how it works, right? It gathers information from, and then it creates. Most of the stuff, and I'm only talking about the Indian film industry, right? Most of the stuff that we celebrate mediocrity, right? We celebrate it, right? Wow, superb. ये हो गया Friday, Saturday. You know how we make films? We make films because Friday निकलना चाहिए. Oh, बच गए यार, बच गए. अगले picture बनाते. That kind of thing. So we don't care about it. But then there are those things that you guys go for and you go over and over again because there is a connection. I think that's the most important thing. If AI can give you that, great. If a kid can give you that, great. If a story can give you that, connection is very important. Without that, it's never going to work, in my opinion.
I just want to add to that as well, which is, as Nikhil was saying, the artist's intent, extremely important. The originality, learning from mistakes, making mistakes, extremely important. This is not anti-AI. I have seen incredible artists working with AI, iterating on their work, going through multi-step processes. It's not just a prompt, right? Sometimes we just think it's just a prompt at the end of, a chat GPT or a new video creation tool, etc. There's a whole process. It takes a very long time to do some of the work that folk are learning how to do. And that's very exciting, right? It's extremely exciting. So all of the things that we mentioned, they can apply to AI generated work, right? There's the structural reasons we all talked about, the incentives, the geopolitics, all of that remains in the forefront as well. But I would say to you, experiment with it, but do so responsibly, right? Do so with your community and think through, is this the version of creativity I want to put out into the world that makes me and my community feel like we have done something original that has returned value to us? And I think you can't go wrong there.
What a great place to end. Thank you everyone so much for coming.
Thank you everyone for joining this panel. The organizers will give a memento to the speakers, and thank you everyone.
Please make way for next session speakers. Please